Morning. The world's facing quite a few problems, and those problems are likely to increase, develop, swell, grow in the coming years and decades, and spill into the millennium. And if they're left unsolved, they could turn out to be serious, make big-time headaches. What we were wondering here at Talk, and my afternoon team, is whether we can put our heads together and agree on a solution. Something which will deal with, well, to be honest, the lion's share of the problems that planet Earth is facing collectively. Although it is a solution that some people won't be able to see as a satisfactory solution straight out, the wonderful power of argument and debate, which we're able to engage in thanks to freedom of speech, a hard-fought, a hard-won quality, virtue, value in modern Britain will, I hope, give us some kind of agreement come 3 o'clock, some concession. Free call 0500 10 53 89. We're facing overpopulation. We're facing a strain on our resources as a result. We're facing economic and technological stagnation. We're facing industrial and urban decline. What we need is another war. Free call 0500 10 53 89. What we need is a good war, a clean war, a global war. Free call 0500 10 53 89. Goes without saying that would deal with a lot of the problems that we face with overpopulation, doesn't it? Doesn't it? Also means that we would reduce the numbers of people who are populating planet Earth who perhaps are sort of taking up more than their fair share of the planet. They're people who would go and fight the war. There's plenty of them. Too many of them. It's as simple as that. Too many of them. Free call 0500 10 53 89. Now, listen, it wasn't me that came up with this idea, I can tell you. They've been talking about it in the Pentagon. And, not only that, and you won't meet very many old people who will tell you anything other than that. The last war was a great time. Oh, of course there were some drawbacks, but broadly speaking, it was a golden era. You ask them. So, let's ask ourselves whether we could stomach another war, bearing in mind the benefits that lay beyond it. Free call 0500 10 53 89. We haven't seen any technological advancements over the last 30 or 40 years that compare with the developments that took place during the First and the Second World Wars. When the Second World War began, everybody was flying around in biplanes, for goodness sake. By the end of the Second World War, we had rockets. Soldiers were going into battle on horseback at the beginning of the First World War. By the end of the First World War, everybody had tanks. We were communicating using Morse code at the beginning of the Second World War. And by the end of the war, we had radar. Technological advancement and development is an absolute necessity during wartime. And the fact of the matter is that things are standing still right now. So many of the problems facing us as a planet and as a people could be solved if only we can come up with the machinery. But we can't because there's no pressure on us. We all benefit and perform better under pressure, and there's no greater pressure, is there, than military conflict. Free call 0500 10 53 89. This country's economic virility has been challenged since, I suppose, the late 1940s, when we went at it hammer and tongs, didn't we? The Bevan government. Since then, it has been a gradual spiral into stagnation. Look at the economic virility of countries like Japan and Germany, and you might even find yourself tempted to say what we need in this country is another war, only this time we need to lose. This is not thinking the unthinkable. This is saying what we think. This is saying out loud what people say. Free call 0500 10 53 89. Look at the urban decline which has characterized so much of the profile of Britain. What it frankly needs is razing to the ground so that we can start all over again. And what better way to raze it to the ground than to get somebody else to do it for us? Free call 0500 10 53 89. This country is experiencing an industrial and manufacturing void. We're not making anything. We're not building any ships. We're not building any planes. We're not building any submarines. We can't even build motorbikes. In this day and age, But if this country were once again isolated by military conflict, we would have to set up factories so that we became self-sufficient. And we would once again have a manufacturing base, and we would once again have industries which could compete with the biggest and the best in the world. Free call 0500 10 53 89. I think we'll do a lot for the British movie industry as well, because I do think that a lot of our best films were made during the wartime, or certainly about our wartime exploits. Did you see Sink the Bismarck on Sunday? Fantastic. Free call 0500 10 53 89. What this country needs is a bloody good war. I'm Tommy Boyd, this is Talk Radio. There's a good argument for listening. Hello. Let's talk to Melanie, who's calling from Southampton after Brian in Northamptonshire. Brian, you're on Talk Radio. Good afternoon.
Afternoon, Tom. I can't believe you just said that about we don't produce motorcycles.
Well, one or two, but I mean...
One or two?
Not to speak of it, you know.
Flipping heck,
Flipping
Mr.
heck.
Boyd.
Come on. You only see Hondas and Kawasaki's, don't you?
Yes, and you get Triumphs.
Suzuki? Yeah, you don't. You don't see them at the traffic lights, man. You don't.
Don't be silly.
Oh, come on, they churn out 3 a week from a hangar somewhere in Bedfordshire. You're calling that a motorcycle industry. Have you been to Japan?
Have you been to Triumph at Hinckley?
Look, it doesn't compete. It doesn't compare.
It doesn't compare.
No, it's Mickey Mouse stuff, isn't it? Be honest, it's Mickey Mouse stuff. We haven't got a car industry. We haven't got a motorbike industry. We haven't got a shipbuilding industry. We don't build aircraft anymore. Are you on the radio telling us that 3 Triumphs make an industry?
No, I'm on my telephone telling you that probably 10 or 15,000 Triumphs make a motorcycle industry, yeah.
And does that make us a competing nation industrially?
Oh, we're getting there.
We're getting there?
Yeah.
We're going down the plug.
Well, you might be.
I'm not, we are. I'm not, that's the point. We are as a nation. What do we build? The French have got, look at the French motoring industry. Look at all their cars. They're great marques.
Citroen 2CVs, yuck.
The Renault?
Oh my goodness, the Renault 4, it was horrible.
It might be horrible, but they're making a lot of them and they're selling a lot of them.
They've got a lot stood on pieces of tarmac they can't get rid of it. Tommy, I'm going to have to go because I'm on a mobile and I'm supposed to be working.
Yes, well, your argument is hard work in itself. He's gone. Free call 0500 10 53 89. Jane calls from Middlesex. Jane, you're on Talk Radio. Good afternoon.
Tommy, do not advocate another major war. There can never be another war, because it would mean the end of civilization. With hydrogen bombs and atom bombs and dreadful... You just wipe out.
No, I'm not suggesting a nuclear war. I'm suggesting another clean one.
Somebody would use it and then the others would have to use it. Definitely it would be a nuclear war. Another major war would be a nuclear war.
I mean, I'm not sure if, the effects of a nuclear war haven't been overstated in the past.
I'm sorry. They have not. We want to state them more. Hydrogen bomb?
We don't know.
You off in no time, mate.
Well, you can't prove that there's such a thing as a hydrogen bomb. They've never been let off above the surface. You've just got their word for it that they let them off underground in caves.
Well...
you take their word, but why do you take their word for it?
Tommy, we have seen slight evidence of that.
Slight's a good word, isn't it?
They can't demonstrate it fully. It's too dangerous, but we have seen...
Well, why do you want to believe them? Why do you want to believe they've got a nuclear bomb?
Why do you think America felt so threatened by, what's his name, Saddam Hussein and his germ warfare?
What?
Because it would have been horrific.
I'm not with you. You're drifting. Are you trying to say that he's got a nuclear weapon?
No, I'm saying he's got germ warfare.
Yes.
Which is practically as bad because it would finish off Europe anyway and the Middle East.
Where do you get your facts from?
Tommy, my fact is just careful reasoning. If we have these dreadful objects of annihilation, it will wipe out the planet. We've nearly done it now.
And that's what they want you to believe.
No, I'm sorry.
Where's your critical faculties, woman?
I think, Tommy, that we should teach people, we should watch the fat cats for one thing, because all they think of is money and what they can grab.
You've got a very nasty dose of paranoia here, missus.
They don't think about the human race at all.
Who?
People who grasp wealth and want everything else, they're the ones who start the wars.
Oh, you are so cynical. First of all, it's our leaders and our military people, and now it's our industrialists.
Well,
not that we've got many of them in this country.
None of them seem to be thinking or using their brains or trying to... Those of us who are not terribly well educated, they're not trying to help us to understand.
Well, if you know more than they do, how come you're not rich?
It's not... Tommy, who's saying I know more than they do?
Yes, you are. You are.
I'm just saying what
You're claiming the moral high ground.
Tommy, it's just evident, isn't it? If you look around, it is evident. But the thing is this, Tommy. If people would only study human biology and how we all came to be what we are today, then there might be some understanding in the world. But all the cults and prophets at the moment, well, it's ridiculous. Fairy tales abound.
Jane in Middlesex. Her solution to the problems facing mankind is for all of us to get an O-level in biology. These problems are big and they're getting bigger. They are humongous. I know it's a matter of sinking the unsinkable or thinking the unthinkable or saying the unspeakable, but an awful lot of people are saying it at the back of the bus. So let's have the debate between now and 3 o'clock. Maybe what we need is another war. Free call 0500 10 53 89. Tony calls from Essex. Tony, you're on Talk Radio. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. You're wrong, Tommy. Absolutely wrong. Why would a war create wealth in this country?
Well, because we'd have to become self-sufficient for a start.
Well, can I just sum the whole situation up as far as this country's concerned? We have a great saying.
And you wouldn't have to. You wouldn't have so many people to look after, or on the dole queue.
We've got a great saying in this country, and the saying is this: we will fight till our backs are against the wall. No, we haven't got that saying at all in this country. Well, we have. We've had it for donkeys.
Nobody's ever said that until you said it just now.
I'm sorry, but I disagree with you.
Well, who? Who said that then? Ever? Nobody said that.
It's a well-known saying.
It isn't a well-known saying.
It is.
We
fight until our back's against the wall.
No.
And my saying.
No. The phrase is we fight as though our backs are against the wall, not we fight until our backs are against the wall.
Well, that's how it's always been, mate.
Nope. No.
Well,
you disagree with me, and yet you're even wrong on this.
Well, I'm sorry, Tommy, but you're totally wrong. What I was going to say is, summing up the mentality of the people of this country is, why wait until your back's against the wall?
I'm not with you now. You're completely losing me. What's your point?
Well, the point is...
You're talking in riddles, and you're making those up.
No, I'm not. The point is, the saying and the people of this country saying, we will fight until the bitter end. We will fight until our backs are up against the wall, and I'm saying,
you'd like a war, wouldn't you?
No, I wouldn't.
Yes, you would.
It doesn't solve anything.
Well, I'm sorry, I'm trying to work out what your point is, where you stand on this issue, because you're just gibbering away, man. And what's your point? Where do you stand on this one?
The point is, if you have a war...
Yes?
If you have a war in this country, initially you will set up industries, as you quite rightly say.
Yes.
But the mentality of the people in this country to run those industries later on will fall by the wayside in the industrial nation.
You don't think British people have got what it takes to run a manufacturing industry?
They haven't got the skill, they haven't got the management, all the way up to government.
Well,
they haven't got it.
No, well, you certainly haven't got the powers of expression. Why didn't you say that in the first place?
Well, I was making points.
No, you weren't.
This country, unfortunately, has got a lot of wealth here, but we don't know how to use it. That's the problem with this economic situation in this country.
That's Tony in Essex. 3 call 0500 10 53 89. He was saying that if we have a war, whatever kind of industrial advantage we'll get, even if we create wealth from the manufacturing industry, a manufacturing base, we'll fritter it away, because we're not up to much in this country. Free call 0500 10 53 89. Interesting, isn't it? All different arguments that crawl out of the woodwork when you come up with something, when you're prepared to talk on the radio about this kind of thing that people do talk about around the kitchen table, and get it out in the open. Have the discussion, have the debate. Free call 0500 10 53 89. We all know of the horrors of war, and yet we rarely bump into a person who lived through the Second World War who isn't keen to tell us that it did have its redeeming features. It's a fact, isn't it? So yes or no? Make it an A or a B question. Do you want another war? Or not? I'm Tommy Boyd. This is Talk Radio. There's a good argument for listening. I mean, putting the proposition, maybe what this country needs is another good war. Peter calls from Kent. You're on Talk Radio, Peter. Good afternoon.
Yeah, hello, Tommy.
Peter.
Yeah, I was just phoned up to ask why you're so arrogant towards your listeners.
And helping them with their argument, Peter.
You're not... That lady who just phoned up, I could understand everything she was saying, but you didn't seem to be able to. You was either ignoring what she was saying...
Having to test her argument, Peter, it's the journalist's lot.
Is it?
Yes.
Yeah, all you're doing is you was making her feel awkward when all she wanted to do was phone up and say the truth.
Well, now you see, you made a flabby point there, you see.
She didn't make us like she was...
No, you just made a flabby point.
What's that then?
But all she wanted to say was the truth.
That's right, she did.
No, it was her truth, perhaps.
No, it was the truth of her seeing with her own eyes and looking around at what's going on.
That makes it her truth.
No, it makes it right.
No. Well, you're absolutely wrong. If you can't see that...
So whose truth do you think people should listen to, yours?
No, I don't tell the truth.
Oh, that's good then.
Do you have a problem with that?
Well, of course. Why don't you tell the truth? What have you got to lie about?
I didn't say I lied, I just said that I don't, pretend to tell the truth.
What, you're hiding things then?
I'm not saying anything.
Well, of course you are.
I'm not putting forward any personal views.
You just like to be right, don't you?
I like to...
Yes, you do. You love it.
I like to provoke debate. And that's what I do.
That lady, I felt a bit sorry for her because, she was perfectly...
Oh, don't be so patronising. People can look after themselves. Yes, they can. Just because they're a woman, you think they need Peter to step in.
What's a woman got to do with it?
Well, you said she was a woman. I didn't. You brought it into the subject.
What do you want me to call her then? A person?
Well, yes, this is 1997. They are people. It's chairpersons nowadays.
You can't change her gender.
I'm so afraid we don't refer to women as women anymore.
Yes, you do.
No, you don't. They're people.
And everyone else I know does.
That's very old-fashioned.
You're trying to be political correct as usual.
I'm trying to be right.
No, you're trying to be politically correct.
I'm trying to be accurate.
No, you're not.
Yes, I am.
She's a woman.
She's a person first.
Sorry, she's a woman.
She's a person first.
She's a woman first, then she's a person.
No, how dare you. What a flabby set of arguments. A person is a person first, and then a man or a woman second.
That's rubbish in all my life.
Oh, is that right? Well, you think about it. Go away and think about it then.
All right, then.
All right, next time you see a dog, all right, what do you see?
I see a dog.
Exactly.
I see a man. I see a man. If I see a woman, I see a woman.
Well, that's very old-fashioned of you, and you've got a lot of work to do.
Of course. Why is that old-fashioned?
Because you shouldn't see a woman when you see a person.
We don't need another war.
Yes we do.
We're not going to turn out a richer nation because we have another war, are we?
You're afraid, aren't you? And you're quite right to be afraid.
Afraid of what?
Be afraid. Be very afraid.
Afraid of what?
A war, because you'd have to go.
Why would I have to go?
How old are you?
I'm 26.
Well, there you are, you see. You'd be the first to be called up.
Why would that bother me so much?
Well, I just assumed you didn't want to go to war.
If I wasn't afraid, right?
Do you want to go to war?
If I wasn't afraid of being killed, then I would be stupid. And if you're trying to say that I'm stupid for being afraid, well, then you're, very silly.
But you would go to war if the cause was right?
Not for this country, no.
But if the cause was right?
It all depends. I can't imagine what the cause would be.
Well, you would have gone to war in 1939.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Right, even though nobody knew exactly how terrible Hitler was. You'd have gone to war in 1939.
No, people have ideas of how terrible he was.
No, they didn't.
Of course they did.
No, they didn't.
Yes, they did.
They knew nothing at all about holocausts or concentration camps in 1939.
That is rubbish.
It's not rubbish. You should check your facts.
I've checked my facts. My family have been in the war.
Oh, you know somebody who was in the war?
They had very, very good ideas of what was going on. They just didn't have no proof.
Right, is that right?
That is the difference.
How did they get this very good idea of what was going on?
Because obviously there were spies.
There were spies, that's right. And so these spies, what were on the radio?
What's the radio got to do with it?
Well, there wasn't television in those days.
People talk, people know each other, word of mouth. You've never heard of that.
Bush telegraphed that Hitler was a nasty man.
Well, no, not telegraph. What are you being silly for? Word of mouth, I said.
Have you ever heard of the Bush telegraph?
Yeah.
It's word of mouth.
What do you mean, the Bush... Oh, I see. Right.
Yeah, fine.
Yeah, well, you didn't say that, did you? You said the telegraph.
No, I said the Bush telegraph. Do you want to hear it again?
Well, I never heard you.
Well, then, in that case, you should pay attention.
Again, aren't you?
No, I'm just checking your argument.
Anyway, as for
a calendar, mate.
Why would that make us richer?
Why would a war make us richer?
Yeah, I can't understand it for a second.
Well, because we'd have to start building ships and planes and motor cars again.
Yeah.
Yeah, is anything wrong with that?
Cars again. There's loads of cars now.
We're not building motor cars.
Oh, I know we're not, but there's still loads of cars.
Yes, but we're not building any of them.
Well, yeah, but that's nothing to do... A war is not going to sort... The reason we're not building cars is to do with trade and sorting out other countries and not our own country. That's nothing to do with a war.
If we had a war, then we would have to develop a manufacturing...
We can do it now. Why do we have to kill all these people, all these children, kill them all, stone dead and everything else that lives.
I'm not suggesting that children should be killed just so that we can develop our own lines in cars. Don't be ridiculous.
Well, what are you saying then?
The fact of the matter is we don't make anything worth speaking of anymore.
Anymore? Why is that?
I don't know. You tell me.
Well, it's quite obvious why. Is it called to do with world trade?
It's not. It's because we haven't had a good war in this country for a long time.
Don't be so stupid.
It's a fact.
I've never heard such rubbish.
Well, you should talk to older people who know.
Have you forgotten Hiroshima? Because you said these bombs don't do very much damage.
I'm not convinced that there's such a thing as a nuclear weapon.
What?
No.
Oh, you're not?
I need convincing.
Why is that then?
Because the evidence isn't strong enough for me to believe in it. There's more evidence to believe that there is
You've never ever seen anything to do with making a nuclear bomb?
Correct.
You never know. Oh, well, you want to learn a bit then?
Well, what makes you believe that there are nuclear weapons?
Because I know that they can make them, so...
How do you know that?
How do I know that? You can get information if you want it. You can go to any library in the country and get information.
And how do you know that information is correct?
Well, how do you know anything is correct then? Let's put it this way. If that's your argument, we might as well take no notice of the news, even though the news is manipulative.
Yes.
Take no notice of the news, no notice of you people on the radio.
Sounds pretty sensible to me.
No notice of anything going, just do exactly what we want.
No, you should think for yourself. Make up your own mind about everything.
I do, and I've made up my own mind. I know there's such thing.
You don't. You don't know. To be precise, Peter, you believe that there are nuclear bombs.
In Australia, when they filmed it a while ago, letting them off underground, what was they doing if it wasn't nuclear?
Well, why did they let them off underground?
Why did they let them off underground? Because it is safer, and they don't want a big cloud of radiation spreading over everybody.
No.
Huh?
No. That wasn't the reason at all. It was to fool people.
It
was to fool people like you.
Why would they want to fool me?
Because they want
that money to fool me.
They want you to believe that there are nuclear weapons.
Yeah, why? But people already believe there is. Why have they got to do that? It's silly.
Because the argument is that nuclear weapons have kept the peace for the last 50 years.
But they haven't kept any peace. That's silly.
That's the argument.
I don't care what the argument. You're being silly, aren't you?
No, I'm not.
Okay then. Where do they get these big, for instance, the people that have died during when they was first? Don't know the years and dates and all.
No, I don't suppose you know very much really, but you have got your opinions and they're set in concrete. That's interesting.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
All right then.
Yeah, there you are.
All right, bye.
Yeah, bye. Free call 0500 10 53 89. Pat calls now from Birmingham. You're on Talk Radio. Pat, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Tommy. I think it's a brilliant idea. I think it would help the government out tremendously if they sent all the single mothers.
Hey?
Send all the single mothers. The mothers that have got children over 5, send them to war.
Yeah.
And the mothers that have got children under 5, send them into the arms factories, etc., making the bombs,
Well, I think it's a very good idea, because we've got to get something back from them, haven't we?
Well, exactly. I mean, the government, they're so stuck, they don't know what to do with these mums.
Yes.
And I consider that if they're able to juggle at home, work, children, on low wages, etc., etc., they're fine to go out to war.
Yes. An interesting argument. I'll tell you what, though, I'm going to bring Kevin into the conversation, who's calling from Northamptonshire, Pat.
Yeah.
All right?
Yeah.
Kevin, are you there? Hang on a second. Kevin, that's you.
Hello?
And Kevin, good afternoon. You've heard what Pat has to say about how we should staff a future world war. I just wonder what your thinking is on that matter.
It's George Bernard Shaw comes up with a better idea. If you have to have a war, and that's the big question, if you have to have, and let's have all the oldest people possible to go onto the battlefield, because they've had a complete life and death is on the doorstep, instead of sending all the young people in the middle of their life onto a battlefield. And if they're facing elderly people on the other side, it would be an equal balance.
I must say, Pat, that sounds like a very sensible idea to me.
That's George Bernard Shaw.
Yes. What do you say?
Oh, right. So, send all the older single mothers then.
Well, what about sending pensioners and single mothers in together?
Yes, because then they wouldn't have to worry about the pensions and all the cold weather payments and everything, would they? Just send them off with a good trench coat and a woolly hat and they'd be fine, won't they?
Pat in Birmingham, Kevin in Northamptonshire. Thank you very much indeed for your suggestions. Let's go now to Dave, who's calling from the West Midlands. You're on Talk Radio, Dave. Good afternoon.
Hello. I'm all in favour of a war. I was in the Navy and my wife won't let me go back in, so it'd be the first way of getting back in the Navy without having to worry about her telling me no. And then, on the other hand, I was a weapons engineer in the Navy. And being a weapons engineer, my job was supposed to deal with weapons, and I'm going to be completely honest, I've never actually seen anything nuclear. Even when they were supposed to put nuclear stuff on board warships, the whole ship ends up moving away. we don't see what they bring on and what they take off, and even though they say it's for exercise, where is the staff? Where are we? We're not there.
Now, this is a very interesting little add-on to an investigation which 3 of my team carried out about 6 weeks ago, and formed part of a programme which we broadcast a couple of weeks ago. Just asking the question, can we be certain that there ever were any nuclear weapons? And we kicked that one around for half an hour or so. It seems to have intruded into the discussion this afternoon, but that's cool. Here you are to tell us, Dave, that you're a weapons officer.
Weapons engineer.
Engineer, I beg your pardon. Yeah. And you never saw a nuclear device?
Nope. I've heard a theory behind it, but once again...
what is it?
The theory behind this, it's all implosion stuff. I mean, I don't believe that you can do it on such a great scale. I know you get knock-on effect, but it's like dominoes. You only get one that falls the wrong way and you're not going to finish the task.
Churchill wrote a memo in 1939 saying that whilst one day you might be able to create a nuclear explosion, it would never be any bigger than a stick of TNT.
Right, I agree on that as well. But there's other things as well, like in the Navy, you're supposed to launch them from helicopters. Let's be realistic, if you're a helicopter pilot, you ain't going to launch one because you're not going to be sure that 160 mile an hour is going to take you back. Of course not. I ain't going to launch one if I was I wouldn't launch one if I was a helicopter pilot.
Oh, that dog don't hunt, does it?
I would do the Yank theory and just ditch it anywhere and then do your runner and then blame it onto missed target and stuff like that.
Is that how the Americans get away with it all?
I was in the Gulf and I would use their theory on that, yes.
I see.
Wrong target information.
So you would very much like there to be another war because you could get back into the Navy and you could fight, and that's what you want to do.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'd like to have a wide and varied lifestyle, experience a lot of emotions, and sitting at home in Oldbury, the only emotions I'm going to get is if I enjoy Crossroads or not, or whatever's on the television.
I'm with you. Now, who do you think we should pick a war with? We need somebody about the same sort of military status as us.
I think that, first of all, we do a lot of training. We know who are good and who aren't, and unfortunately, I would tend to pick on our own allies rather than our enemies.
Who's about as good as us?
Who are about as good as us?
It's French, isn't it, really? It has to be the French.
I wouldn't even pick on the French because, because it's the fact that you're going to ruin your cross-channel booze line, aren't you?
That is the point.
You've got to, I'd pick on the Americans and hope that the Canadians side with us.
But what about Canada?
Well, yeah, I mean, Canada's a fine one, but they've got too many fingers in the American pie.
I've got it. Australia.
Why not? Get rid of the soaps as well, wouldn't it? Make a good excuse. I'm sorry you're giving us bad television. We've got no choice but have war with you.
They'd enjoy it.
Of course they would, wouldn't they? And they can make a decent soap about it.
Dave in West Midlands, thank you for your call. Funnily enough, interestingly enough, the reason we wanted to talk about this today is partly because it's what people talk about, isn't it? You know what I mean? You don't expect to hear it on the radio, but we're not like that.
No.
But it is what people talk about. But in America today, they've just published a Pentagon report, huge report, into their... America is spending far too much money thinking about another conventional war or a nuclear war, whereas, in fact, if another big war takes place, it will be fought very differently from any other war.
Yeah.
It will be fought mainly with propaganda.
I think that's probably the whole idea behind the invention of the modem. But that's more like for the conspiracy hour.
And now I can hear straight away where you're coming from on that one, and the Pentagon would appear to agree. They're putting between $5 billion and $10 billion a year into developing new, what they're calling weapons, but are not weapons as we understand the word weapons. They are tools for achieving a victory. And you could be quite right, it could be PCs and modems.
Exactly. Mr. Gates?
Oh, yes. All they need to be able to defend themselves against is terrorism on mainland America.
And ones and zeros.
Yes. So they're going to get rid of all their bombs and planes and tanks. Oh. Fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah.
But if another war is fought, you see, here we are saying what we need is another war. Maybe a war is being fought at the moment. And maybe you on the radio at the moment are part of the war.
I'm certain.
You don't know.
I'm certain I am.
You certainly are. Thank you for your call. Free call 0500 10 53 89. Francis is on the line from Hampshire. You're on Talk Radio, Francis.
Hello?
Good afternoon, Francis.
Good afternoon. I think the nuclear war would be a good thing.
It would it?
Yes, it would. It would be a very good thing.
And this is because?
Well, you were saying that a war would kickstart this country's economy and so on.
It can be argued.
Yeah. Well, if you believe what the paleontologists and those scientists who believe in evolution say, which I think they're probably right, Every time there's been a major wipeout of life on this planet, evolution has gotten kick-started. There's been new species, they've gotten better developed. Personally, I think the human race is a bit of a dead end.
What an interesting spin on this debate. Thank you for joining us, Francis.
All right.
What you're saying is mankind has evolved as far as it can.
I mean, we've reached a plateau, a level of stability, and I think the anthill needs kicking.
If we are ever to free ourselves from this mortal coil and yet retain our intelligence and immortal soul, we need to be wiped out.
Yes, basically. And the advantage of this argument is even if you don't believe in evolution, which means the chances are you're a fundamentalist Christian or something, then you're all for Armageddon as well.
Yes, I see.
But either way, push the button.
There's a consensus. Francis, it's been a revelation listening to you. Thank you for your call. Free call 0500 10 53 89. Another 20 minutes on this one. What do you think? Do we need another war? Provided we lost it, it'd be bound to benefit. Roy calls from West Yorkshire. You're on Talk Radio, Roy. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Tommy. Well, I've just been listening to a few things you've been saying, actually, and I think a lot of it is a lot of rot. Who's going to fund this?
Oh, lottery money, of course.
A lottery money's going to fund it, so who's going to buy the lottery tickets if they're all dead?
Well, I'm not saying that everybody would die. People don't all die in a war, do they? Nobody ever all died in a war.
Wars from the past, what they've done is they've borrowed funding from abroad, which makes the country poorer. And another thing to say is, once we've made all these weapons and things, there's no productivity there, is there? We're not selling them, we're just going to blow them up, or blow everybody up with them. So how are we going to increase profit for the country for that?
Well, you see, what we need in this country is a shipbuilding industry.
Right.
We need a car building industry. We need a manufacturing base.
Right.
Don't you agree?
We need a manufacturing base, yes, but I think that's the wrong way of going about it.
Well, it's one way of going about it. Have you got a better idea?
Well,
no.
On that respect, but when you're talking about the war, though, there's a very poor idea around it.
Why is that?
Well, obviously, I've just explained that to you. Haven't I?
No.
Well, obviously, we're going to be borrowing money to death, aren't we?
No.
We're not going to be selling anything, are we?
No, not necessarily. This country is a lot wealthier than it was in 1939.
Oh, obviously it is, yes.
Much wealthier than it was in 1939.
Yes, true.
Yeah, so we won't have to borrow any money.
Sorry?
We won't have to borrow any money.
Oh, we will have to borrow money. You always have to borrow money because you never expect what you're going to spend when a war is on. How long is it going to be? Is it going to be for a couple of months? Is it going to be for 6 years, 10 years?
No, it's not going to be as long as that.
How can you say that?
Because we're going to surrender shortly after starting.
Well, isn't that pointless?
No. Look at Germany and Japan.
Right. Yes.
Yes. You know the argument.
Yes, I suppose I do.
Don't have to go over that one again, do I?
No, you don't.
I won't then. Okay, fine.
Right. I think, actually, you're saying there's a lot of people there that's not got jobs at the moment. Why don't they bring back actual national service instead of fighting wars?
Well, what's the point of bringing back national service if we're not going to have a war, for goodness sake?
Well, we don't really need a war, do we?
Well, we don't need national service, so you've just defeated your own argument. You have shot yourself in the foot.
Yeah. Not really. I think, actually, if a lot of people go into national service...
Yes?
Right, it'll give them a sense of duty, a sense of respect back.
Not if there's not going to be a war.
Well, I don't think really we need a war, to be honest. You know yourself we don't.
If we're going to get any real respect, if our conscripts are going to benefit at all, emotionally and spiritually, from putting on the old khaki, yes?
Right.
There's got to be a sense of purpose behind it, hasn't there? Come on, I mean, you're a psychologist like the rest of us.
Well, I'm not really, but...
you know what I'm saying
I'm just generally listening to talk radio, I do.
Yes, that's right. Okay, and we're getting somewhere here, aren't we?
Well, yes, we seem to be.
Roy, thank you for your call. Free call 0500 10 53 89. Pam calls from Llandudno. You're on Talk Radio, Pam.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I can't see as we need a war at all, Tommy.
No?
I mean, what about all the individual suffering? You know, all the children that would suffer and be separated from their families and... You know, old people, I mean, they have enough to contend with now, don't they?
Well, I don't know, you see, I haven't lived through a war, Pam, but...
I haven't, Tommy. I was born near the end, just after the end of the war.
The point is this, Pam, when we talk to people who've lived through the war, they invariably tell us that it was a very exciting time, that everybody felt fantastic, we all pulled together. They all tell us those things, don't they?
Yeah, but don't you find, though, a lot of elderly people looking back, I mean, all the good they did for us, looking back, they always remember the good points. They don't remember the bad points. You know, a lot of the children that were suffering in the war. And
you're trying to tell us, you're coming on the radio, you're trying to tell us that old people have a distorted perspective.
No. But I think every one of us, not just old people, when we look back, we tend to remember the good times.
But there was a lot of bad times, you know, when people went hungry, and children were,
You're only imagining that this is the case, aren't you, to be fair?
I mean, think of have you got children?
I do.
Well, think, how would they feel if you were killed, or your wife, or they were separated from you and you were far away and they couldn't get to you, or...
Well, it's going to happen one day, isn't it?
Well, we don't know, do you?
Well, I'm going to die, dear.
Yes, but that's in the, natural of time.
Not necessarily.
I mean, we want peace, don't we? We want the ideal is for us all to live together.
Let's examine that then. What's so great about peacetime?
Well, peace is, ideally, that we all live together and, we respect each other's point of view. We all have a different point of view, and we all respect each other's point of view, and all live together happily.
I know that's the idea, but is that what's going on?
Pardon?
I know that's the idea, but is that what happens?
Well, no, because, we're not perfect, are we?
So what you're saying is that
ideal.
Peace ain't all it's cracked up to be?
No, but it's better than war. It's better than war now, isn't it? You wouldn't like to think there was all bombing round where you were, would
Pam,
you?
I don't have the arrogance to poo-poo, to dismiss the evidence that people who lived through the war have seen with their own eyes.
Well, I'm sorry, but I've read a lot, and I should imagine you have, because you're a journalist, about all the suffering that went on in the war. Parents separated.
Well, no, I mean, you don't read much about that, apart from in sort of, you see it in films. I mean, Kenneth More cried, didn't he, when his son was all right in Sink the Bismarck?
Well, Tommy, a lot of suffering went on in the war. A lot of suffering.
Yeah, I'm sure it did. But at the same time, everybody I've spoken to who's lived through it have said it wasn't that bad.
Well, I can't see everybody. I mean, I'm sure you mustn't have come across people then that have had hard times in the war.
What you find is that people say, well, it was a fantastic time and everybody pulled together and we all worked hard.
Yes, and we're grateful
we
for
were
that.
we were all friendly with each other and you could talk comfortably and happily with strangers and there was no class system in Britain and we all had this same common purpose and it was fantastic. But on the other hand, people were losing their lives horribly. That's how people put it, Pam. The people who lived through it, are, to my way of thinking, curiously ambiguous about the pros and cons of war. People who were there.
You can't get away from the suffering, though, Tommy.
No, you can't get away from the fact. No, but you. No, I'm not saying there wasn't any suffering. Didn't you hear what I just said? Yes, there was suffering, but yes, an awful lot of people who lived through it said it wasn't all bad.
Yes, but probably looking back, and if you've had somebody lost in the war, somebody really, really dear to you, or you've gone through real deep suffering, like as a child...
Yeah, but we're all going to die, dear. You've got to take this on board. God has decided that he will take us if, the other side don't.
I can't see the point in going into it with our eyes open to want a war and have mass destruction.
Well, there's more to life than just living as long as you can.
Well, yes,
it's how you live that's important.
We live to come to have the whole person, don't we? Our inner person. That's what we should be living for, as I see it.
I'm grateful for your call. Let's talk to vigorous. There's a word. It's been vigorous giving this one an airing. Frank calls from Sussex. You're on Talk Radio, Frank. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Frank.
Yes. I think you should start your programme again.
Yes.
But take it down to the poppy factory, where the disabled are making the poppies. Make your announcement there should be another war, and yet you run like bloody hell, mate.
Well, I could be wicked and say I wouldn't have to run very fast. Oh, he slammed the phone down. Oh, what a shame. Free call 0500 10 53 89. Let's go to Carol, who calls from Birmingham. You're on Talk Radio. Carol, good afternoon.
Hello, Tommy.
Hello, Carol.
Yeah. The point I'd like to make is, I don't exactly think this country needs another war,
no?
But I do believe that we do need the discipline that war brings to the country, for the camaraderie and the way people will pull together and fight for one cause, instead of everybody in society just fighting against each other.
It would be good for doctors, wouldn't it? And the health service generally, because they would be in demand.
Yeah, it would be really good for...
I'll tell you who, journalists would love it.
Well, no, it's just the discipline that it brings.
The journalists would love it.
Yeah,
wouldn't they?
Yeah.
I remember that couple who wrote to the paper during the Falklands crisis and said...
to give everybody a job, wasn't it?
Yeah, they said, my wife and I haven't enjoyed the news so much since 1945.
Yeah. I mean, it would give everybody a job, it'd give everybody a purpose in life.
Yes.
And I think that is what is lacking, actually, in society
We'll have
today.
to pick a fight, won't we, Carol?
Yeah,
Thank you for your call.
We will,
Thank you for your call.
Yeah, I'll phone you again, thank you.
I look forward to it. Free call 0500 10 53 89. I'm Tommy Boyd. This is Talk Radio. There's a good argument for listening.
Don't forget to subscribe and like. Comment too if you wish. Even slap your legs and make a purchase from Ann Summers. But don't do nothing.